Okay, just testing one more. All right, so this is going to be a quick one. This is just a quick review of basic area and perimeter. You probably saw this in like 6th and 7th and 8th grade. So we'll go more into detail in this in chapters 11 and 12, but this is just a basic. So before we start, I just want to mention exact versus approximate. As we don't have calculators for the first semester of our class, I want you guys to give all your answers as exact values. So this is an exact value. Pi holds an infinite number of decimal places. It's an irrational number. We don't want you to approximate it with 3.14, which is close to pi, but not exactly. Just leave it as 12 pi. That's perfect. Everybody, there's no rounding errors. There's no, calculators, just 12 pi. You might see a decimal, like 1/2 is exactly 0.5. That's okay. Square root of 3, just leave it. I don't want a 1.7 something. Just square root of 3. Okay. Approximate answer is when usually you use a calculator, but you're getting a decimal that's close to the value. So like 12 pi, you could approximate it as 3.7699, or even less precise, 37.7, or 38, or 40, or 50, or to the nearest million, it's rounded to 0. So all of those values are quote-unquote near 12 pi, but 12 pi is the exact value out to 10 billion trillion decimal places. It's exactly perfectly accurate. Okay, same thing. Square root of 3 is exactly perfectly accurate. 1.7 is an approximation where we shaved off an infinite number of decimal places and left a single decimal place out of infinity going on forever and ever and ever, trillions upon quadrillions, and as big a numbers as you could come up with and more. Instead, they just kept the first decimal place. That's like saying the whole world is, and just giving one person. You're like, well, there's animals, there's water, there's other stuff. It's just one thing is not a description for an infinite amount, okay? So you could say 1/2 is equal to exactly 0.5. However, something like pi, again, these are all approximations, but pi is the exact value. Here, 1/3 is exactly right, which 0.3333 forever is exactly right, or it's approximately some number of 0.333 stop, or just 0.3. Again, these are approximate values. So I want you guys to answer as exact values. However, the sad thing is to check your answers in the book, you'll have to use a calculator and approximate. Unhappy face. Okay, that being said, let's start. So perimeter, just remember, is the distance around a figure. Circumference is the distance around a circle. Since a circle isn't straight lines, it's not a polygon, we can't use the same vocabulary, but perimeter, circumference, same thing, just for a circle. Okay, an area is the amount of 2D region or surface covered by something. So I think of it like, what portion of a blanket would I have to cut out? How much material would I need to lay over the table? So here are the formulas. I just remember for perimeter, add. The only one where you need a formula for the perimeter is a circle. And that formula is circumference equals either pi times diameter or 2 pi times radius. Remembering that the radius is from the center out to any point. It's the same no matter what direction you go in. Or a diameter is just 2 of those. Instead of going from the center out, you start at one side, go through the center, that's one radius. To the other center, that's the other radius. So 2 of those radiuses is the same as 1 diameter. And then the area formulas. I won't go too in depth because again we're going to do all this again in a later chapter. But base times height, base times height, base times height divided by 2. The key here is for it to be base and height, you need to have a right angle. And that's again going to be something we really dive into later on in chapters 11 and 12. But there has to be a perpendicular. You could not say base B times height A. Those are not corresponding base and heights. I could use this as the base, and then the height would be from the furthest point away directly at the line right angle. This would be its height, right? Or I could have chosen a different color, this to be the base of the triangle, and then from the furthest point, right angle to that, that would be the height on that side. Okay, so let's just do some problems. Okay, describe the error, or describe and correct the error made by finding the area of a triangle with a height of 9, triangle, and a base of 52. So the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So let's look at what they did. Oh, they did base times height, and they didn't divide by 2. Classic mistake. So divide that by 2, and it should have been 234 square feet. Okay. Down here, find the perimeter and area of the shaped figure. Now remember that these symbols mean congruent. So if the right one's 8, then I know this one's 8. The bottom's 18, 2 dashes and 2 dashes correspond. So this is 18. So I just go 8 plus 8 plus 18 plus 18, adding up all 4 sides. That's the perimeter. So 16 plus 36, that's 52 is the perimeter. And in this case, they're feet. I'm not going to be particular about units, though. The area of this one, this is a rectangle, so base times height. So that's 8 times 18. So that's 80 and 64, or 144, and this was feet times feet. So the units are feet squared. Over here, same thing, except look, they only give you one measurement, but they tell you congruent, congruent, congruent. So we have 15 on every side. In that case, we could cleverly say the perimeter is just 4 times 15, or that's the same as 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15, just going all the way around, which is 60. Units here are inches. And the area would be, again, this is a special rectangle. So this would be base times height. So 15 times 15, or a square, you could think of it as 15 squared. That's where the squared comes from. And so you get the area is 225, and the units would be inches squared, because it was inches times inches. So let's go down to the next problems. Okay, so now we're getting to triangles. So find the perimeter and area of the shaded figure. So remember, the area is base times height divided by 2. So which ones I choose for my base and height are very important. They have to be perpendicular. So it doesn't matter which is which, but let's say this is my base. Then the height is from the furthest point perpendicular to that side. So the height has to be 30. So my area would be 72 times 30 over 2. I'm going to divide that 2 right now and get 36 times 30 over 1. Or, ooh, that's what? That's 90,108 with a 0. So 1080 square yards. And the perimeter is just add them up. So 30 plus 72 plus 78. Or 140, 150, 180 yards. Okay, going on to the next one. I went a little over my allotted space there. Again, I see congruent, so I know this is 15. So the perimeter is an easy one. 15 plus 15 plus 24. Common mistake is people just add up every number in the picture. But this 9 millimeters is referring to an inside line, which is not counted in the perimeter. So common mistake is to somehow add that 9 or maybe not include that other 15. But for sure the perimeter is start at any corner and go all the way around the shape. Okay, so we get let's stay in blue. So we get the perimeter is, we're not including that 9, we're only including the 3 outside sides. So this is 30 plus 24. So this is 54 in millimeters. The area, base times height divided by 2. Doesn't matter which one you select as the base, but it has to have a perpendicular height. And in this picture, the only perpendicular is right here. So that means that this must be my base. And the perpendicular to it, going from the furthest point perpendicular to the base, would be my height. So this would be 24 times 9 divided by 2. I'm going to cancel these first. And this is 12 times 9, or the area is 108 square millimeters. And lastly, this one's a little more confusing. It says find the area of the shaded region, so it only wants this area. Okay, so the perimeter is only the exterior of that shape. So I'm going to start at one corner and go 17 plus 10 plus 9. I'm not going to use my 6 or my 8. So the perimeter is 17 plus 10 plus 9, or 27 plus 9, which is 36 centimeters. And the area is base times height. Again, I look for a right angle, and I go, okay, this is my right angle. Then my base must be one of these. Well, this must be my base right here. Okay, from corner to corner. And then my height would be the furthest point. Now, you can't go straight at the line right here. So you extend that base out and then draw perpendicular to the base. And so the height is this number right here is 8. And so base times height divided by 2 would be 8 times 9 divided by 2, 72 divided by 2, or 36 square centimeters. Okay, again, this is where the book down here, when we get to circles, answers are going to be a little confusing, because for me, when I want to find the circumference and area, I just go, well, circumference is pi times diameter, or 2 pi radius, doesn't matter which one you use. And the area is pi r squared. So for number 11, I would go, well, if the diameter is 27, then the radius is, divide that in half at either 13.5 or 27 over 2. So the circumference is pi times diameter, 27, which I would just write as 27 pi exactly. And I would just leave it like that. That's my answer. Now, you would have to plug it in to a calculator to test it out. And then the area would be pi r squared. So it would be pi, and I'm going to do 27 over 2 squared. And shoot, you're going to have to do 27 times 27. I've got a calculator. So to save time, 27 times 27, which is 729. So this is, let's get rid of that. This is 729 over 2 times 2 times pi, which you could write in a couple of ways. You could either write it as area is 729 pi over 4, or you could write 729 fourths times pi. All right, so I'll just do a few more here because I'm running out of time. I could do more here, but they're all the same. Okay, distance formula. So it says find the perimeter, and I added the area. And the key here is you know that the x and y axes are perpendicular. So if I want to find the area, I can't count diagonally. I have to use the Pythagorean theorem or distance formula to find the diagonal distance, but I can count up and down, left and right. So I do know this is 3. And I do know the furthest point, if I go straight at that line, is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away. So I could do areas base times height divided by 2, or 3 times 4 divided by 2, 12 divided by 2 is 6. All right, so I could do the area 6, and you would say units squared, but again, I'm not going to be particular about units. And then to find the perimeter, I would just say, oh, shoot, well, I'm going to have to either use the distance formula, or I know that's really just the Pythagorean theorem. So instead, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So this is 2 and 4. And so using the Pythagorean theorem, I get 2 squared plus 4 squared is c squared. 4 plus 16, or 20. So this is the square root of 20. Okay, same thing over here. This is 4 and 1. So using the Pythagorean theorem, 1 squared plus 4 squared is 1 plus 16, or 17, is equal to my c squared. So c is root 17. And this one we can count as 3. So the perimeter is 3 plus root 17 plus root 20. And there's no way to combine those like terms, so that's it. Now, you could simplify this if you know how. We're not going to do that until chapter 7, but you could write that as square root of 4 times square root of 5 or 2 root 5 if you're comfortable. You don't need to. Just the way we wrote it is 100% correct. Okay. Now, anytime we tell you to do something forward, we could always do it backwards too. So I might not say, here's the information, find the area. I might say, here's the area and some information, go backwards. Like, for example, here it says the area is 261. And I know the area is equal to base times height divided by 2. Now, here's my height, perpendicular to a base. So I have all of the information except for the height. And I have the relationship, so I could just plug in an area of 261 is equal to my base, 36, times my unknown height, all divided by 2, and work backwards to solve. So I could multiply both sides by 2, and I get 36H equals 522, I think. And then I'm going to have to divide by 36 on both sides. So I'm going to just double check my arithmetic here. So 261 times 2 is 522. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide all that by 36. And I get 14.5. So my height is 14.5. Perfect. Okay. Again, you could do that with all of these. Here's one where there's an 8. So I know this is 8. Here's a W, so I know this is W. Again, those congruent segments show me that. And that says the perimeter is 25. So that'd be 8 plus W plus 8 plus W equals 25. And then you would go down using algebra to solve for W. Now, one last one is you might get a word problem like this, where it's the same problem as this, except instead of a picture, they give you some words or a relationship. So in this one, the area of a rectangle, so here's a rectangle. The area is 18. And I know the area formula is base times height, right? And then it says the length of the rectangle is twice the width. So we have a relationship, which really what that does is it says instead of two totally free variables, this one relationship means now I've really only got one free variable, and the second one could be written in terms of that first. So if I call one of these W, there's a rectangle, so the opposite sides are the same. Instead of saying length, right, I could put length here, but that doesn't help me. Now, what's length times width? I don't know. Instead, it says the length is twice the width. So instead of writing a free variable of length, I'm going to say I could express the length as twice the width. And twice the width. And now when I look down, I go, well, area is base times height. So area I know is 18. The base is 2W times the height is W. And we solve that. So 18 equals 2W squared. Dividing by 2, we get W squared is 9. Square rooting both sides, we get W is plus or minus 3. Though if we go back up here and plug that in, we know a side length can't be a negative 3. That's silly. So we get that the only possible value is that W equals 3. Then we look at, find the length and width. So the width was 3. The length, which was 2W, is equal to 2 times 3, or 6. So L is 6. All right, I hope you enjoyed that short video. Good luck.